not sitting with no Saja boy. What's up?
Hello there, and welcome to an all-new episode of Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and much, much more. I am your host, Josh Scar. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, the baldest cat you've ever seen, Alex. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic, because I know, based off the music we just heard, that this is a special episode, and I'm excited to meet our guest.
A very special episode. I have to preamble this a little bit. If you listen to my review of K-pop Demon Hunters on the Movie Wire, you already kind of know this story. Ricky and I watched this June 20th when it came out, and we loved it, but it was late when we finished, so we just kind of turned it off after the movie ended, and we went to bed. Next day, we wake up, talk to our kiddos, say, hey, you want to watch a movie? Like, heck yeah. Put on K-pop Demon Hunters. And this time, because my kids have grown up in the Marvel era, they know to watch through the credits. And there comes a point in the credits where we see the name Gary H. Lee, and I have this Buddy the Elf moment, and I just start going, oh, I know him. I know him. And I go sorting through my phone and find the picture that I have of all of our thumbnails, and I pull up the phone. I'm like, it's him. That's him. That's how I knew about this movie. It's Gary H. Lee, and he's here with us this week. Gary, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for making the time to be back. Gary, you are the head of cinematography at Sony Animation Pictures, or Sony Pictures Animation, if I remember correctly.
That's right. And that's for K-pop Demon Hunters. The last time we spoke, I was at Netflix. And so this time, through this K-pop film, I'm at Sony. And the next project, not exactly sure where it will be, but it will be within this realm of, kind of cinematography for animation.
And that's super cool. And last time we spoke, you had even introduced yourself as the head of Sony Pictures Animation. And I think I was so nervous at that time that it didn't even resonate with me that the guy doing cinematography at Sony Pictures Animation, and I was just like, okay, yeah. But I have grown as a podcaster and as an interviewer in that time. So not quite as nervous, not quite as, okay, I hope I don't make an idiot of myself this time. But it's just super cool that someone in your position is taking the time to chat with us, and we appreciate it so much. And congratulations on K-pop Demon Hunters. Not only just a fantastic movie, a fun movie, the movie of the summer. I don't know if you've seen some of these numbers, but it is doing gangbusters, and the soundtrack is going off on billboards and Spotify. It's on fire in the best way it can be.
To be completely frank, I always knew the film has a lot of real unique sauce to it, when you first come onto the film. And my kind of journey to the film was the fact that I actually knew the director Maggie Kang for almost 20 years. We were at DreamWorks, kind of starting out together around the same age, same time. And then when I was at Sony working on Vivo, I had a conversation. She was in the cafeteria sitting by herself, and I was like, oh my god, Maggie, this is after a decade of kind of me was at DreamWorks, going off doing some live action previous projects, going back to animation world on Vivo at Sony Picture Animation, and then running into Maggie, who I haven't seen in such a long time. And that was during the Vivo era. And Maggie was like, what are you doing here, Maggie? And she was like, I have this project called and she had a smile, go, K-pop Demon Hunters. I think everyone can imagine this. When you first hear that title, you're like, oh, what?
That sounds insane. Okay.
You have a second take to this idea. And she real kind of casually and confidently and just kind of talk about, it's about this group of girls that has special power, that, their songs kind of protect the world from demons. And it was a real shorthanded conversation. And at the time I was like, oh my God, that sounds really, really interesting. In the same time, you don't get the full film with just 2 sentences. It was one of the things that, good luck, keep developing it. And I went off and continued to work on Vivo. And after that, Magician's Elephant. And eventually that film's her development is doing well, getting her first kind of a rough storyboard screening up. And I start hearing about the momentum, and actually the producer, Michelle Wong, who was produced on Vivo, kind of reached out, was like, hey, Gary, I think you'll be perfect kind of for this project. And that's when I kind of go back and had a chance and, had this opportunity to really participate in the project. And again, I want to emphasize the fact that I along with all of you, like with K-pop Demon Hunter, it's such a odd concept that you don't, to be completely honest, I expecting awesome entertainment, but it is not until you see like what the film is about and how smart it was, like incorporating all these pop culture to animation to anime to also like a love letter to Asian cinema, Asian soap opera, like storytelling methods, that I was really blown away once kind of stepping into it and realized there's something completely unique. So essentially that was kind of the entry to this project.
How far into pre-production were you brought into the project?
So the animation process, obviously filmmakers spend quite a bit of time to figure out what the kind of the outline of story is. And once you have the outline of story, they'll have a draft, sometimes very loose, of screenplay, or sometimes multiple. And then you start working with storyboard artists to kind of try to put up a picture as quickly as you can. Meaning you're like literally watching a film. You're working with editor with like super loose storyboards. And you can like have sound, music, and you can literally sit there for 90 minutes and just watch this film. And a lot of the times, the first screening, as you said, you'll have stuff that's not even fleshed out at all. You'll have like, I remember when I was working on like Kung Fu Panda back in the days, you literally like before they sort out a certain action sequence, you'll just have like this huge title card that says Tai Long Fight. And that's like, that's like your third act,
Yeah.
Like things are very loose. So I just want to make a point to say that when saying a screening up, it's not so much like the whole picture, like a whole film is already figured out. Is you get a sense of what this film is and what the potential of what it could be. And from that point on is like, the notes to how to refine it. And that's when, me, production designer, all sorts of people start piling onto the project to try to look at every aspect of that film and how to elevate it, from different angles, like from musically, cinematically, animation wise. That's when they start having conversation with. And by the way, don't quote me on any of this, but this is just my observation of the process.
Well, it is an audio podcast.
And like animation director, etc. I hope that answers your question.
To clarify for the audience and also for me, because I'm always slightly confused, like, what is the difference between, what special secret sauce component do you bring as a cinematographer that adds to the director? Because typically we think, most people walk around and think, oh, well, the director, they put the camera there and they like make sure they're like, yes, I want it in the magic hour with a 4-point focus and like 20 by 3, format and yes, action. But I know like Spielberg works with the same director a lot. So does Tarantino and many people. And I know when I'm watching a Bond film, because the Bond cinematography is always top notch, like just the look and beauty of it. So is that like where you step in is like, I'm going to make this look gorgeous for you?
Exactly. I think our job is to, I've worked in different capacities before. And by the way, head of cinematography, this is the first time I've gotten that title on a film.
Oh.
And before this point, it's either head of previs or head of layout in the animation terms, because it used to be that to the animation, you have someone who kind of lays out the panels of how you want to, like traditional animation, how to draw. So you kind of like lay out your shots. So that's why it's called layout. And ever since the transition from 2D to 3D, for the longest time, our job has still been in that realm of like head of layout, even though we started to use 3D camera in like a virtual space.
Yeah.
And it is like becoming more and more a norm, and kind of the industry terms are starting to recognize what we do as like digital cinematographer. So Disney and Pixar have director of photography, camera staging, or director of photography lighting, which is like, so for what I do is I'm the person who determines where to place the camera, what kind of lens to use, what is like the camera philosophy for the whole film.
Nice.
And it speaks to like the format, the composition, the movement, rather bring suggestions of like whether a sequence, there's opportunities for certain visual storytelling in a certain sequence. And in a lot of ways, our industry has evolved into recognize this as like more of a craft that is recognized in the traditional sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very much one of those people that's trying to normalize that, for this particular craft. Because there's a lot of animation studio that still don't recognize it as cinematography. They recognize it as part of previs or part of layout. And in my opinion, if it's like you're doing 3D camera and you're actually setting f-stops, doing lens choices, you're worried about like the quality of bokeh and all of that, I think you're kind of, in a sense, operating a camera.
No, that makes complete sense. Like, I've read some interviews with like Andrew Stanton of Pixar, who left, after doing Pixar to do John Carter. And he was like, this is basically the same thing we're doing, but there's actors. He's like, but the actors don't do what you tell them to do every single take. This is terrible. So yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense because you have this virtual environment and you have to make decisions upon an entire world. You can't just be like, I'm not saying it's harder or easier, but if you have a hill in real life, there's not a whole lot you can do until you start green screening, but you can craft the world, choose the camera, the angle, light, weather, everything when you're in that digital environment. Yeah, that's real work. You should be ahead of a cinematography.
I think live action cinematography is just like cinematography traditionally means that you're someone who sets up the camera and you also light, right? You light that scene, Roger Deakins or, amazing cinematography, like that's part of the job. So that's why in animation, animation, the setting up camera, how that camera moves, and also the lighting of it are like two separate processes completely. So in my opinion, in animation world, separating cinematography into two different roles is completely reasonable. Someone who does camera staging versus someone who does lighting. And I hope that's making sense. But yeah, I'm on a mission to, because I think it will be great that the next generation of camera operators in animated films will be someone who people recognize as cinematographers. I find that having conversations like this is helpful to a kind of shed some light in like this particular craft in animation industry. And also, as you said, like to your point, I get asked that question all the time. Yeah. Like even my parents will be like, so what do you do on animation films? And for the longest time, it's like, I do previs, I do layout, I do camera. It's like, we might as well just lump that into like a language that people understand.
No, it's definitely legit and it should definitely be respected because this film feels so different from the opening shots. And the moment that I knew I was going to love this film was on the airplane, where the writing, directing, everything just set up perfectly. Because you had already pre-told a little bit that something's off with the plane because the person's watering a plant with coffee. But then they're all ready for their ramen, and one of them is about to drink it while in the middle of a fight, and they're like, 3 minutes. And then the fight continues, and I'm like, this movie has me. The camera movement, the look, the universe is just baked in immediately. And I'm like, this is going to be a great time.
I always felt that K-pop really have one of the strongest first act, ever seen. Like the first few sequences, it just grabs you right away and it goes to places where the world logic is very suspended, but is highly stylized. And so much of that is to the credit of the story team, the directors, like Maggie herself has such a good sense of humor. Like she had a story on Lego and Jaco, and there's a lot of sensibilities, very instinctual. And I wasn't part of the whole conversation about how they come up with the first act in terms of the airplane getting ready, skydiving down to a stadium and start concert like right away. But that is like the most badass opening one can ever imagine for like a K-pop concert, right? Like to have this opening of like 3 people jumping out of the sky, arriving at the stadium, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, and they're just rocking it with fucking awesomeness. Like the momentum, and once the music, everything comes through, it's just like such an awesome, energetic feeling about the show that I think is so unique.
The first like 5 or 10 minutes does a lot of heavy lifting because, like Alex said, it really sets them up as these like super badass women that can kick ass. But you also have like, even before the fight and how it's done sequence, you have them just being girls and like having fun. They're eating entire sushi rolls, they're eating an entire bag of chips, and you're setting up the expectation of this hyper realism and like anime inspired or homaging, where you have like Zoe being this little gremlin chomping down on all the chips. You've got all the faces that they're making, very Sailor Moon inspired, it seems, and just magical girl stuff. It's wonderful because it makes you feel like these things, but it's unique to itself as well. It really engrosses you into that world really quickly, and it makes the characters very favorable very quickly because you get who they are with each personality immediately. You understand that they're just normal people that are also just happen to be superstars, and then also they are amazing musicians that kick ass and fight demons. It just does so much heavy lifting in really quick succession storytelling. Like, this is one of the reasons why animation works so well and is such a wonderful storytelling mechanic, because so often in live action, they're going to take so much time to be like, well, our weapons, they come from the Hanmoon and we're going to materialize them from there. And they're going to exposition the crap out of the first 5 minutes because it's live action. So it's going to be more people seeing it. We have to explain more because more people don't understand these things. But this is like animation and at its finest, because it is just doing a lot of show don't tell and just flowing. That opening sequence where, like, one of my favorite shots in the movie is where you have the like fog machines and the silhouettes of the girls, and then they come out and attack the demons. Like, such a cool shot. And then they just start rapping and the concert goes off and it feels like you're part of it. It's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say they really are very smart about picking what people think about a concert is, what a glamour is, and what is badass fighting. And the girls are also not your typical like female characters on screen that are always decked up beautiful. I mean, they are beautiful and they look glamorous, but they also have this really like real side of them in the sense that, oh man, we're damn hungry. We want to just shove this food down. Like, we're not shy to be, your modern day-to-day girl who you feel like authentic and real, rather than like a princess that's, in a tower, and how they move. Everything is kind of has that tradition that comes with it. And so it's a very modern fable. And I just thought that there were so many smart decisions that Chris and Maggie had kind of gone through the process with, their whole Chris, Maggie, Michelle, producer, and Scott, Barry. Sometimes with these original content, I always feel like, especially at a certain price tag, with studio pressure, with dual co-production between multiple studios, there's so many gatekeepers and people that are trying to go, okay, what are you trying to make? Are you, we don't feel like there's enough of this. So can you put I feel like this group of creators are just getting so many information from all sides, but to be able to weave through all that noise and able to pick what is right for the project is something that I think is a skill on its own. And I very much applaud the choices that they make for the film.
Did anyone try to get rid of the magpie and the blue tiger? Because I will fight them. Because the blue tiger, when it pops up and knocks over the little potted plant, it is one of those sequences that goes on so long it's not funny.
I think,
and then immediately becomes so much funnier because it just keeps going. I
think someone saw the merchandising opportunity, because you can buy the Derpy plushie. It's on the Netflix shop.
Okay, I am going for that, and I love.
Netflix shop, not a sponsor, but should be. We're going to be advertising K-pop Demon Hunters so much for the next few weeks.
I love that the bird has a hat. And it's why does the bird have a hat? Well, it's actually for the tiger. And they don't explain at all why the tiger, who's giant, needs a very tiny hat.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Which
my
makes
question.
me laugh even harder because it's, like,
It's because
this doesn't make
Genu
sense.
is a good boy who just happens to be a demon and he loves his kitty cat.
And then the joke comes back with a wastebasket later. It is perfect.
One thing for sure I can tell you is that those animals were never in doubt at any point.
Thank
'Cause
goodness.
They just sing Steelers like since day one. So they have never, I've never seen a version of it that they're not there.
Good, because he appears and I'm like, this is creepy, and then it just hangs, and I'm like, I need a plushie right now. I need both. I need to own this as toys. They're great.
Again, that speaks to the amount of tone this film is trying to hit. I think it walks that very delicate line of, like, from moment to moment, you jump from comedy to something suspenseful to a little bit scary to emotional, like within matter of seconds or minutes. And to be able to kind of delicately jump between all those, is also a strength of this film for sure.
I saw a really great interview with co-director and writer Maggie Kang, where she was talking about during the Golden sequence how they use the bridge as a way to introduce the conflict of the film. And it's such an organic piece of storytelling that it didn't even click for me that that's what that was trying to do. Because to me, as just Mr. American guy, I'm just like, oh, there's the bad guy. That's the conflict. Okay. But no, the conflict is Rumi's story with her markings. And when I heard that, where Maggie was talking about how the bridge is the introduction to the conflict, I was like, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And it's just a beautiful moment because a big part of this movie is Rumi's story, if not entirely. And it's such a really cool concept to have the conflict be introduced not from a bad guy appearing and a big battle happening or destruction happening, but just from a character revelation and a reveal to the audience. And can you talk about like how framing that shot in particular during the bridge, like what the conversations were around that to make sure that we convey enough information without there having to be too much telling?
You're talking about during the song when Rumi starts to like reveal that she has a pattern herself.
Yeah, there's the down part in the bridge of Golden where she's like waited so long for these chains to fall down or something to that effect. You see her drop her jacket and you see the markings on her arm. And it's the slower part of the song, like Maggie said in that interview that I saw, which I wish I could credit. I just can't remember, but I'm sure she's done so many interviews that she said similar things on similar interviews. But it is just a really great piece of storytelling again, where we see the thing, but it's one of those really great cinematography moments where the lighting is adjusted because we've got all these bright, vivid colors for Golden, but now she's hiding in her dressing room or her makeup room, and she's by herself, and the lighting has changed because the tone has changed. And it's just a beautiful shot and a beautiful way to reveal this character moment.
In terms of camera, what I can speak to is that in this film, we definitely pay attention to how we want to shoot Rumi that makes her feel isolated and alone. Part of the cinematic pitch, and going back to the earlier conversation that we were talking about and your question about like, what is it that potentially we bring to the table for this film is that, from my standpoint, is looking at what the story requires and then where the story takes you. If you really think about K-pop Demon Hunters, it's a film of multiple tones, right? It's a film where and also on a kind of camera level, you have your traditional storytelling camera, which is like the camera that you're shooting the entire film with. And then you have these like Asian soap opera, K-drama sensibility that you really want to push into. And what does that mean? It means a lot of traditional like K-drama, a lot of times they don't have a lot of time to have this huge production. They would just like shoot a scene of two people under a street lamp. And the way they do that is to have a camera with extreme shadow depth of field, right? To just blur everything of, outside of those very moments. It's like a cheap filmmaking almost, because budget restraints. But that suddenly made it into like this soap opera sensibility. So we really kind of lean into making sure that I have the camera that can allow for like really big bokeh, shallow depth of field. And, for the moments where, when Rumi's in the dressing room by herself, like it's very soft focus, and she's like reeling her head, is about these like close up of, when she covers herself up. It's a lot of, in K-drama, you also notice that little tiny movement of like two characters like touching hands. So you have this like crazy extreme close up of that. You're like trying to make a big moment out of like, it's like the whole soap opera, like approach, right? And then you have like the broadcasting, which is like the game show, So when we shoot stuff like that, we have to shoot it in a way that feels like, a television show, like the camera's not fancy at all. It's like, it's just like this master setup is super flat. And then you have the concerts. We want to shoot concerts moments when the girls are on stage, like one of those like Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga moments. There's a lot of references of like, what does that mean to how you move that camera? Does a camera, is still, even in movement, it still has to be relatable to a physical camera that's at a live event, right? Even though with the introduction of drone, nowadays you can pretty much do any camera move, but it wasn't like that before this like drone era. So I think we like, our job is to kind of like connect people into, hey, if I were to go to like a Blackpink concert, or watching a documentary of a Blackpink concert, how would capturing and shooting that entire event will feel like? And when we're in those moments in K-pop Demon Hunters, we approach those moments with those sensibility. And when Rumi's with Genu, we approach them as, K-drama, right? And so this like kind of put them in different buckets and then approach them that way. And going back to the whole Rumi, the self-revealing to the audience, it's like she's giving a secret to us, the audience, that nobody in the film knows about yet. And the goal and the North Star is to, how do we make it as, in her head as possible?
So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but one of my questions was going to be, how was working on a musical as the cinematographer compared to your previous works? I've watched the Magician's Elephant, beautiful movie. As a musical, like, you have to bring the music to life as well as the characters. And so for you, how was adjusting to a musical as the cinematographer?
I would say like the duet sequence was a pretty hard one. And I think to kind of capture going from music and having characters that, one shot is at one location and the next shot transition to a different location, that very like the music video sensibility, that there's not much logic or continuity. That is a challenge, like conceptually, how to tell that story. And this is a collaboration going back and forth between the story team as well. And on our side, kind of our challenge is to make it actually work in the 3D space, right? Like, because sometimes like you can have a drawing of a character that the background just suddenly changes. But in a 3D animation world, we actually have to figure out mechanically what that means. Like, going from one location to another location. So our artists end up just having to cheat a lot of different set pieces constantly just to make certain shots work. And if you really kind of like take a step back with like a bird's eye point of view, their travel path, how they sing through all of it, none of it makes sense. So I think for musical pieces, like kind of those music video moments, those are challenging for sure, like from technical standpoint and like execution standpoint. But then stuff like that are on the concert stage, those are pretty fixed. They're on the stage, and it's just about how to shoot it more excitingly, according to the song, according to, like the differences between shooting Rumi for Golden, then when Rumi was kind of under attack between for the takedown, by the two girls. Those are like, we want to make sure that they feel very differently. But those sequences are like much more self-contained because you're just on a stage.
What is it like having to decide where to place the camera when someone's eyes turn to corn, then popcorn? Because I loved that so much. Because as grounded as it can feel, with of course, they're demon hunters in this world and they're building basically a shield to protect themselves from demons. Those moments where it's just like abs, boop, 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 it's perfect.
Part of our job is to make sure that, we have a really good camera that we pass it down to the animation team, because they don't start until, we set the camera, and we will have like these rough characters that we are in placement of these shots. And eventually those characters gets replaced by like a fully rigged animatable character by the animation department. I always feel like, especially in K-pop with this anime sensibility also like compresses everything, makes everything really flat. It's about just to have a really nice, like flat, really good playground for the animators to do their thing and shine. Just like on live action, you have the camera, but your actor is the one that brings the stuff that's gonna, make you giggle and laugh, when you're watching the film. And yeah, the very first sequence actually in production, the very first sequence we shot was the Meet Ugly sequence, which
really?
which is in the hallway, in the alley, meeting the four Saja boys. That was the very first sequence we shot. And
wow, that's a tough one to start with.
that was executed by Nick Barber, and that sequence was almost like, now thinking back, I almost wondered if the studio was going, if this sequence works, then the film works, because it's such you have your K-drama, you have the bumping in together, the slow motion, she's falling, you have this like full Korean soap like intro theme song, and then you have the chibi face with like the abs. It's one of those sequences that I have to applaud Sony Picture Animation for just like, yeah, we're fucking doing this, like, I remember I had a studio, Kristen Belson, in meetings would talk about how K-pop is a PG-12 movie. Like, she always talks about it like, oh yeah, we're making a PG-12 film. And I just thought that was so smart. Like, they already know what are the things that's really important to retain in this film, and that's precious about this film, that's not screw with it in this film. So like the Meet Ugly sequence was almost like a litmus test for us to be like, okay, is this going to work? And hell yeah, it did. It did. It's very ballsy to go there, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Because that leads into, it's probably the catchiest song with Soda Pop, but it also continues to lean into that a little bit, because the Huntrix immediately is like, some of them are like, well, they're demons, and it's like the others like, well, it could be a magician, because magicians can make hearts appear, and
then they disappear, and Zoe's like, to be fair, that is something a magician would do. I love Zoe. Zoe's the best.
Zoe has definitely become a scene stealer, and I think that it's something that gets discovered like more in the midway of making the film. They realize like part of the process of this film was to also continue to refine who these girls are, like elevating the character and make them unique and very identifiable from all of them. Like, I don't know how much I'm supposed to share, but earlier screenings, you almost go, oh, they're the three girls. Cool. But you don't know who is who. And then after every iteration, their personality, what they do, what is their thing, all of that gets more and more instilled into like the growth of all these characters. I think that made them all very distinctive. And Zoe happens to be the one that just became like this scene stealer, like from moment to moment. People love Zoe for sure. I definitely talked to like even her crazy smile, like when both, Rumi and Mira are like badass cool, and she just has this like I'm a psychopath kind of like look.
Yup.
In how it's done, yeah, that's like one of the first things I noticed and clocked was that you've got that hero shot of them walking in from the side, and you've got Mira in the back, Rumi in the middle, and they're just all business. And then you've got Zoe with this just like cute little smile and just like slightly crazy eyes of like, yeah, this is what we do. It's fun.
Yeah, and she raps. She's the only one that raps. Through it's like her and Baby are the two rappers in the film. They're like the most kind of like cute but lethal. Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about the technical aspects of this, but I really want to know, which one is your favorite song?
I have to say, My Idol, or I'll Be Your Idol.
Mm-hmm.
That one, it's just so cool. In my opinion, like the Saja Boys' last performance with that kind of traditional outfit and the animation, that's actually the sequence we spend the least amount of time on, just because you were rushing to try to get the film out. And that's like one of the last sequences that we worked on. Animation team took on a lot of heavy lifting through Josh Beveridge, the animation director, to all the performances on the stage. A lot of that they took a lot heavy lifting. But I remember, after animation also animates to the shots, we'll also do like a final camera pass over it to make sure that things are like, now this shot's final. And I remember going through that process, just was blown away by the energy and just how the choreography and then the way they dance. There's such like a kind of persona, like very impactful, that is, you're kind of getting that full demon vibe.
It's the villain song.
It's like the coolest villain song, right?
Oh yeah, it is.
And also like they're speaking about, now you're not going anywhere, we have your soul, and then Gima showing up in the back and everyone just marching towards the fire. Just like everything about that sequence was like, I just thought that the editor, Nathan, and like the director, they're kind of breaking it down, launching it, through previs and through animation. It all came together to be like a very, very memorable moment. At least to me, that's my favorite.
It's really awesome that you mentioned that, because that sequence has my favorite shot of the movie. It's when like the choreography starts and they start doing a little bit of the dance routine and the camera is like locked on them and the background shifts, but like it's so unearthly. It's kind of like what they did in Upgrade, where they had the like iPhone lock on. I'm forgetting not Tom Hardy's name. The main character, Logan Marshall Green, something like that, where like it's just locked on him and like he's center focused the entire time and the background is shifting around him. And it's a half a second shot, but I just love that movement, that it's hypnotic in a way, like kind of what the song is trying to get you to do and what they're trying to get you to feel is it's just locking you in on them. And I love that shot.
Again, that's another thing about K-pop Demon Hunters is, besides your broadcast, besides your onstage, cinematography, besides your K-drama, you also have the MTV and also the K-pop music video. K-pop music video is a big kind of genre on its own. Like K-pop music video, if you watch any of them from BTS or Blackpink and all those dance choreographies, or even going on Instagram with the, kind of influencers when they do the dances, like a lot of that locking the camera to the head thing is one of those very signature thing that they do with like dance choreography. In Soda Pop, we did also do that as well.
I was going to say, I think they brought that in as like almost a signature look for the Saja Boys.
Yeah, like with when they do the group synchronized choreography, to just have that camera that bounce with the head is like, is very modern. Like you're not going to watch a film and see something like that to not think about like, this is a modern take, of this, something that only happens in today's world. If I have a camera like that on Magician's Elephant or on Life of Pi or Kung Fu Panda, like that will stick out like a sore thumb, right? But for like a K-pop film that you're like, fuck, let's lean into it. And that's like, do more of it. Let's find the right places to use it.
I have a question for you. When will you find out if you're doing the sequel because there's a lot of unanswered plot lines that I want some answers to.
My almost 10-year-old has been hounding me of like, maybe they'll make a TV show. Are they going to do a sequel? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how the streaming numbers work with the idea of getting a sequel.
The streaming numbers will give you a sequel, I am sure.
Yes.
Like, I think the world is demanding it, and I personally have not gotten same receptions like the one at K-pop Demon Hunters. Like, I have people reach out to me that I haven't seen in ages, you know, my high school friends or whoever that text me just out of nowhere. It's like, Carrie, I saw this and it's taking over my living room. Like, my kids have it on loop. Like, you know, I worked on like Star Wars, like the Kung Fu Panda franchise, like Academy Award winning like Pi. Like, there's some projects that are pretty like lucky enough to have certain projects that are like did really well, but K-pop is one that became like almost,
it's a phenomenon.
Zeitgeist. It's a phenomenon. I mean, I knew it was going to be awesome, and working on it is, you know, a cool project. But this reception has been, you know, unexpected, I have to say, in a good way. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was like #1 in the US on Netflix for multiple days, and it became like #1 on the weekly, and then it became #1 global. And I think he like recently just like fell to 2, and I think it's going to get back into 1 again. You know, like, I just don't think that there's ever records as such. I mean, Netflix is, if I was Netflix, like, it will be greenlighting the second one yesterday.
Was there a fight to get a theatrical release for this? Because at the very least, I feel like maybe a limited sing-along theatrical push would still bring in some pretty good money. And I know my kids would beg me to go to Chicago, Milwaukee, wherever theater might have this if it's not showing locally. My kids would want to go to a sing-along version of this in theaters, and I would happily take them.
Oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to sing Takedown. All 4 versions of it. Because I do love that Takedown metamorphoses quite a few times with the transition of the lyrics as they kind of like fight what they mean and how to change them and stuff. I love that.
No, Takedown, like them rehearsing, coming up with the idea of Takedown as a song to take down the Sergeant Boys, and end up being like Rumi being takedown from the song from her, like, you know, team members on stage, you know, doing that betrayal. It's genius, you know, like that whole twist, all of that. And that's, again, to the credit of the filmmakers of making those choices. It is a little bit unfortunate that the film was not theatrical. I think it has the scope. It looked a phenomenon, and it also sounds phenomenon. Like, at the end of the film, we did have a screening, like the cast, you know, the crew screening at a soundstage at Sony studio lot. So I was able to bring, you know, my daughter and some friends to go. Like, you don't hear, but like the experience watching K-pop with, you know, the Atmos surround sound at this like big screen is worth. I don't think all the films is always like theater worthy. I definitely think K-pop is.
It definitely is. It's one that, had it had the right release window, probably would have ran for quite a while as well, because the rewatchability is fantastic.
Oh my God. So there's a world where I think about what it means if that is a theatrical release. And I think, you know, that's, you know, studios has to, I don't know what the logic was, you know, to have it be, you know, just streaming. Perhaps it's a Netflix thing. That's above my pay grade. But of course, as a cinematographer, we want to see our film on a huge screen.
Yeah, I know Netflix does not necessarily like, from my understanding of reports I've seen, Netflix does not like doing theatrical releases because it cuts into their viewing numbers, even though it brings in box office revenue. But it's outside of their purview for trying to be the new cable, based on my understanding. But it's still, I don't know how the Academy Awards process works anymore. But I would hope that this qualifies. I know there's been reports that Sony is submitting Golden for consideration for Best Original Song. I think they should submit at least 3 songs. I think
Oh yeah.
Golden, Soda Pop, and either oh geez, I'm forgetting the name of the first song. But What It Sounds like those 3 at least are all 3, I think, nomination worthy. And also I love that last year people were talking about like, oh, Peaches is going to get nominated, or 2 years ago, however long Mario Brothers was, like Peaches is going to get, it can get a nomination. And I'm like, Soda Pop is 1,000 times better than Peaches, like 10 million times better than Peaches. And that is worthy of at least nomination, if not win.
Oh, it would definitely be qualified for Academy in terms of submitting for Best Animated Film. There is like, all the Netflix films go through that in the sense, you can put it in theater for a certain amount of time and you get qualification, for that. I'm rooting for when the season comes to, I do think K-pop is going to be a very strong contender.
Oh, 1,000%. And I would love it if they did like there's occasionally they'll do those like award season screenings in theaters where they'll put movies back into theaters to kind of refresh viewers of the movies. And again, hopefully that's something that Netflix allows and maybe gets a little extra box office money, because I want to see this in theaters. I want to see it on the big screen.
Yeah, I feel like obviously as someone who's behind the camera, I want to see it in big screens. In the same time, the strength of, having something that goes to Netflix directly is that suddenly you reach like 80, 90 countries overnight, like immediately, right? And the viewership, the amount of eyes that gets to it is it will be incomparable, to family having to, fork up money to get babysitters and go into theaters without knowing what this is. Because a part of me, and this is just my observation, is that I almost feel like this Netflix model kind of allow a film like K-pop Demon Hunter to happen, because it's so and from a different perspective, this could be a very, very risky project for a studio, right? Just like listening to the pitch and complete original content. It's not a sequel. It's not based on anything. Netflix is actually a pretty good place to make projects like this with Sony Picture Animation, which are like the only places are like really greenlighting like original content. So I think, yeah, definitely there's pros and cons, but I would rather have the ability to have this be seen by, millions of people and, watch on the biggest screen you can find and just sit really close to it.
Yeah, it's easy to talk with the benefit of hindsight to say like, oh, this would have done great in theaters based on what we've seen, but it is risky to put it in theaters. But it feels like a movie that would have grown, kind of like what The Greatest Showman did, where it didn't necessarily have a great opening weekend. It didn't have a great second weekend, but it just kind of lingered and people attached to the music and it just grew. So if they found that window where it could just stick around for a while, I feel like it would have done really well over a longer term. But because of the turnover we've been seeing with movies as well, where, oh, this didn't have a $600 million opening weekend, it's going on streaming next week. That model is kind of really starting to hamper the theater going experience. But it's still just a wonderful movie that I'm extraordinarily happy that is also just appropriate for all ages to sit down and watch, because my 7-year-old, she loves this movie. She's the one she's like, I'm Zoe. Zoe is me. We're the same. She literally came home the weekend after we watched it the first time. Like every day she came home from her grandparents after being babysat while my wife and I worked. She ran to the basement, turned on the TV and played K-pop for an entire week straight. And I was just like, I can't say no. Like I'm fine with the soundtrack playing. I love the music. I love the characters. I'll probably stop whatever I'm doing and watch this.
It's a very easy replay for sure.
Oh yeah.
And the soundtrack as well. Like even like Soda Pop is super catchy, and like all the songs are, like the whole music side of the film is out of this world. The music producer Ian, and that's a whole other part of this production that I'm definitely don't have as much exposure to, but blows my mind.
Gary, if you don't mind me asking a little about your work history, what was it like working on Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets? Because I was so excited for that movie because my wife and I adore Fifth Element. And I believe, Josh, didn't we review that, or was that just something we talked about?
We just
person?
talked a lot about how Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne look kind of similar, and we couldn't tell if they were supposed to be siblings or in a romantic relationship.
So that movie was just beautiful, and it had like all the elements for a Fifth Element, but none of the substance. But what was it like working on? Because I can only imagine like that world building you can do with the previs.
I wasn't on that film. Like I think I remember trying to remember. I had done a short film called Aiden, and I think I was in the process of like pitching that around as a feature, and then it was like, oh my God, I need to kind of work. And you know, I had this relationship with a previous company called Halon Entertainment, and they had this project Valerian. So I go in there for about, I think 3-4 months, just, you know, helping to build shots. So I want to first and foremost say that I wasn't there for the entirety of the show.
Yeah.
But the moments I was there, I was definitely super excited because I was a big Luc Besson fan, you know, and watching stuff like Leon the Professional to Fifth Element. Fifth Element is wacky but ahead of its time, and just has like I remember watching Fifth Element for the first time and just didn't believe what I was seeing. And again, that's one film where the tone just goes all over the place as well, but somehow it's cohesive in its own way. I thought that was going to be the Valerian, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see it in the theater at ArcLight Hollywood when it came out. Again, this is just from a very subjective point of view. Yeah, I think it comes down to the chemistry of the leads, right? I didn't really buy those characters of like who they like the casting choices of those characters. And I feel like the older I get, I realize how important like it is to have like casting is huge. I would say like, you know, 70% of your film is like who your characters are, because they're going to carry it through the whole thing. If you don't believe it, then you're kind of took the air out of that journey, you know, at least for myself. In terms of the world building, in terms of like even the opening of like how you kind of talk about like the progression of human civilization to like different alien species and all of that, I thought it was, I still think this is super cool.
Oh, and
yeah. The world building itself, I think, is awesome. I just wish that these are the characters I can relate to, that I believe who they are and have the chemistry with each other. Like, it just felt like it was cosplay a little bit.
Yeah.
And didn't feel like it was owned. It was too like, kind of like the Bruce Willis and,
Mila Jovovich.
Yes. Yeah.
Rich, like that chemistry, which is just like much more believable.
Have you had a chance to see the new Superman yet?
My God, I should. I really wanted to. I did not have a chance. I'm dying to see it because I'm a James Gunn fan. Mm-hmm. Have you guys seen it?
Oh yeah. We went to the Amazon Prime members advanced screening. The reason I ask is because you're mentioning chemistry, and Rachel Brosnahan and David Corenswet's chemistry as Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane are just it's bravo. Like, I know they did chemistry reads and everything, and I honestly believe Rachel Brosnahan has chemistry with a paper bag. Like, she could act against anyone, but the chemistry between the two of them is just fantastic.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. I watched all of the Marvelous Miss Maisel, and she's just thought that she like the moment they cast her as Lois Lane. I was all in on that. I was like, that's perfect casting. Like, you've got Lois at the very least.
And Nathan Fillion has chemistry with any camera he's nearby. He is great in that movie. In it way more than expected, by the way. So be prepared for a lot of bad bowl cut.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So Gary, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I do have a two-part question for you. What was, as the cinematography, what was your favorite shot of the movie and K-pop Demon Hunters, and what was like the most difficult shot for you guys to compose for the movie? Or maybe was there a shot that you guys put together that made you go, ooh, yeah?
You know, the Me Ugly was our first sequence that we shot. And I remember always like looking at a ton of artwork for Saja Boys. And Saja Boy to me is like taking the caricatures of these like K-pop members, putting together almost in this like Power Ranger like arrangement, you know, with their color and stuff like that. I remember when after Rumi was knocked down, when Jinyu did the shoulder brush, and suddenly he's like, watch yourself, with like the five guys standing there, like camera shooting up at the five Saja Boys. That was the very first time that was like, all right, this is like our villain gang member, our like ensemble on screen, and you have this like off shot of like of all five of them. That had an impact to me when that shot first came through, and feeling like, well, we've landed the feeling of this threat of the Saja Boys, right? So I that's like a shot that I will always remember making this film with. I do think that Jinyu in My Idol, the last moment when right before, in the middle of him performing the song, and then he heard Rumi's voice, you know, when we're just standing there looking down, you know, you have like this nice medium close up of him, where he's like this full demon with like the wind blowing on his hair. And I think that's like a really beautiful shot that I would like probably print out and, you know, put in my office or something. Also credited to the animation department under, you know, Josh Beveridge. But I would say that that's another shot that really kind of resonate with me. A lot of the Rumi stuff, like when she's in the dressing room again, revealing herself, you know, showing her pattern for the first time through the mirror, you know, when she's like looking at herself, singing to herself in the mirror to reflection. I also think that's a really powerful moment because it's very kind of internalizing the stake of the film. And that I definitely gravitate towards. There's so many beautiful shots in the film. You're asking me to pick my favorite hits, and I almost feel like rarely you work on a film where you can probably just stop at any frame and you're like, oh yeah, I think that looks good, you know.
And this is one of those movies where like every frame is art. Like you can, like you just said, any time you stop the film and you just pause it, you could print it out and put it on a wall and everyone would be like, yeah, that's amazing.
Speaking of which, is there any chance, have you heard rumors of like an art book being released or something like that? You know, some like the Storybirds or something for a little collector's item?
I think even just to my exposure of it, I already see that Netflix is like having links to all the swags that like merchandises you can get, like is starting to pop up. I would love to for there to be a K-pop Demon Hunter art book, you know, Helen, Celine, Dave, and Wendell, the art directors and production designers on the film, has done such a phenomenal job, and so much artwork, so much inspiration. It would be a shame if there isn't one.
Yeah, agreed.
It would be pre-ordered in my house almost immediately, like from the moment it's announced.
And by the way, go follow them on Instagram. They're posting all the artwork, you know, every day from the movie. Like it will be if you want to see what is behind the scenes of all those films. No, all the artwork for the film. Just go and follow the accounts of the art directors and production designers on K-pop Demon Hunter.
Adding that to the list now.
So now that this is out, it's taken over the world. Hopefully you're already signed on for a sequel when Netflix announces it here in 2 days, hopefully. What do you got next lined up?
I am already on another project. at the moment. It's not something that is ready to be talked about yet. And so I'm someone who basically I jump from film to film to film. And just like any of like director, production designer, like the traits of making a movie. So for me, a lot of times I follow movies and it doesn't have to be at a particular studio. It just, that movie is getting made here. I'm part of that time at that studio with that film. At this very moment, I'm actually at Warner Brothers Animation. I'm on a picture that I don't think I can announce yet. Right before our recording, I was kind of in the midst of making a presentation for, the camera language for the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I have yet catch up with many people that was on K-pop to like really kind of get together and go, what the fuck happened? Like this thing just like very busy with day to day. I'm sure that like the world is like, I get texts from people that are like, the world is demanding a sequel, like even, yeah.
Well, in lieu of demanding a sequel, my daughter did have a really fun suggestion. Once I told her that the Golden was being submitted for consideration for the Academy Awards, she was like, what if Huntrix performs at the Academy Awards? It's like, well, they're
That'd be
voiced by
awesome.
people. But then I had the realization that like you could animate and have a presentation on the stage of Huntrix and do like
Kind of like the hologram.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be super cool. Not to like take away a moment from the girls from Twice who sang for the Huntrix girls, but it would be really cool to like immerse the world in Huntrix as well.
Yeah, I think that would be the special way to do it, to like really take it home on like being true to like this medium thing in this like kind of digital K-pop group. I think early days, I had a memory of wanting this project to have like after the film is done to like Rumi, all the girls actually have their own social media and will continue to be updated, either through Netflix or to almost like just have these characters continue to live on in our lives.
That would be super cool.
We can like go on and follow them and they would like have updates of their lives, which I think is like such a good idea. So I have a feeling that all of that is probably going to happen because it's just so popular. It's like, why wouldn't you kind of like milk as much out of it as possible?
Yeah. All right. I think the last question I have is there any update on Aiden and your pursuit of getting a feature-length film for that short film that you had made?
That's definitely a journey. I'm actually considering releasing Aiden, the short film, this year, just out to the public. Like it's like a 10-year anniversary since it was in the film festival. It was a live action animation hybrid that has always been made as a pitch to a feature. And then right after the short film was done, after its festival run and luckily pick up 10 awards, it did pick up as a feature. But throughout the pre-production process and all of that, we had COVID and, many different obstacles in like kind of a macro environment that it really took the air out of it. I still have a really strong heart for it. And being that it has always been a pitch, that was one of the reasons that I never kind of like just put it on my channel or YouTube or anything like that, because it's always meant to be kind of part of a bigger thing. But this year being like the 10-year anniversary of Aiden, and also just feeling like more engaged with participating in multiple different projects and have it feel less precious on one thing or another, I'm probably going to release it for the first time that it's not just exclusively for film festivals to everyone to see and have its own moment in public. So when that does happen, I'll definitely, hit you guys up and share with you as well.
I didn't want to say, but yeah, you definitely have an invite whenever you want to talk about it.
That's pretty nice of you.
And for the last question, this is just going to be, since this is an audio podcast, this is just visual. Can you in fact confirm you're working on Booster Gold for James Gunn? Just nod twice if that's your special project.
Oh, I cannot I would say no.
Stop nodding.
For legal purposes, he is not nodding. He is not getting in trouble with Warner Brothers.
Nah, I just had a tease. I was like, wait, it's something with Warner Brothers. What is in production? What is near in development?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely need to go watch Superman. I'm a huge Superman fan, and I just felt like I was a fan of the cartoon Superman series, like the DC Batman Superman, like that whole era. I thought the Superman one was just as good as the Batman one, but then all this feature version of it, just none of it really struck the right tone. I'm super excited to check out this one.
This one definitely feels like an episode of Superman the Animated Series. I don't know that it has as much of a heart. I don't want to like set you up for disappointment or anything, or like give you too much information, but like it does feel like a Saturday morning cartoon, and it's great in its own right. I said in our review that I think this is the best version of a Superman movie that James Gunn could make, and I think that very well is as accurate of a statement as I can make about this movie.
It's just a good time. You got to get to it.
I need to get to it. I need to get to it soon before social media tells me exactly what happens in the film. So it's like nowadays you're like racing against time. Whenever some like big popular stuff comes out,
there's like showings like at 7:30, 8 o'clock. You should just leave right now.
Well, speaking of social media, Gary, please let everyone know where they can find you on the social media platforms as well as your personal website.
I have a completely non-curated Instagram page that suddenly doubled its followers within the past it's K-pop Demon Hunter.
I think it's because we tagged you in our K-pop Demon Hunters post.
Oh, okay. So it's Gary.h.lee. That will be my Instagram handle, and I do have a website that's GaryHlee.com.
And those will be linked in the episode description. Gary, thank you so much for your time. It has been a pleasure, just like last time. But I am more eloquent this time. As I said, I've become a little more comfortable in talking with people.
Likewise.
This chat has been absolutely wonderful. And again, congratulations on the success of K-pop Demon Hunters. It's not only a fantastic movie, but it is getting the recognition and praise it deserves.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's been a pleasure. Yeah, it's been a pleasure last time as well.
Yeah, it's been great meeting you. You've been so kind as to give us your time and also to explain to me what cinematography is, which is the very important part. Because I cheer at the Oscars. I'm like, that movie looked good. Yes. But now awesome. I know why I'm cheering and why I'll be cheering for you.
Well, unfortunately, there's not a cinematography category for animation on Oscar. In any case, I'm just happy that we're now making films that are just higher and higher caliber and really utilizing camera like one physical space and being recognized as such. Yep.
All right. Well, Alex, do you want to let people know where they can talk to us about K-pop Demon Hunters, among other things, in the Discord?
Everyone should join our Discord, including Gary. Links at the bottom. It's a tsmackpod@gmail.com. Come chat with us. We have rooms for everything. You can see how much we've been praising you, and it's a good time. We're polite people.
Except for Matt. He's the star of the show, so he gets to be a little bit of a diva. But you can join our Discord by clicking the link in our episode description or finding us through the Discord search. You can find us at Talking Smack Pod on all the social media platforms, including Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Email us at tsmackpod@gmail.com. If you have thoughts, concerns, reviews, whatever you want to share with us, send them our way. Thank you to Leo Allen for our musical themes, Beppo for our original avatars, Retro Ale Studios for our Ricky avatars. Please like, subscribe, rate, review on your podcatcher of choice. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Follow Gary on Instagram and check out all his work. We look forward to his next project. Thank you again, Gary, for taking the time to be with us. Alex, thank you as always for being here and recording on a little bit of an off day for us. But I mean, we have to make time for Gary. Gary is too kind and wonderful a person. But most importantly, thank you, dear listeners, for taking time to listen. Please take care. And Gary, if you would be so kind as to let everyone know that they should be watching Star Trek.
You have to watch Star Trek or you're not living a life.
Truth.
I want to talk about those pants. Teddy bears and choo-choo trains? Really?